Some moments don't echo with words, they hum with presence. You sit across from her, and something in you settles. Not because of what she says, but because of what she doesn't need to say. No performance, no pressure, just presence, calm, deliberate, unwavering. Like the kind of silence that doesn't ask to be filled. And yet, you wonder, does she truly love me? See, men have been taught to look for the grand displays, the loud laughs, the romantic chases, the fiery affection. But what if the truest kind of love isn't loud at all? What if it's quiet, calculated, not to manipulate, but to protect? Marcus Aurelius once asked, what is it in ourselves that we value? The rational soul, guided by virtue. And in love, that virtue often reveals itself not through words, but through decisions, actions only a woman who truly respects your soul will choose. That's what today is about. Not flowers, not promises, but the subtle signals, 6 sacred actions, that a woman reserves for the man she truly loves. These aren't signs born from impulse or lust. They're decisions shaped by emotional maturity, by depth, by wisdom. And if you know how to recognize them, you'll never again confuse affection with alignment or chemistry with character. Because real love, Stoic love, doesn't come to excite your ego. It comes to sharpen your soul. So if you've ever questioned whether what you have is real, if you've ever wondered what true devotion looks like behind the curtain of words, this video is for you. We're not just decoding actions. We're deep diving into the philosophy of how a woman moves when her heart has made a sacred choice. And if that resonates with you, consider subscribing to Stoic now. This channel exists for souls like yours, those who seek wisdom, not noise, strength, not spectacle. Tap like, leave a comment, and stay with me until the end, because this journey might just change how you love and how you let yourself be loved. Now take a breath, and let's begin. Number 1. She prioritizes your peace over her ego. Some women raise their voice when things get hard. Others lower their energy. They speak less. They breathe more. They steady the storm rather than add to it. And if you've ever had the quiet fortune of loving a woman like that, you know exactly what I mean. In a world addicted to reaction, her calm is an act of rebellion. When you come home weary, frayed by the demands of a long day, she doesn't interrogate your silence. She doesn't take your mood personally. She sees beyond it. She waits, not with judgment, but with quiet understanding. She knows the man in you is tired, not unloving. That right now, you don't need to explain. You just need a place to land. This isn't passivity. It's emotional intelligence at its highest form. Because she's not just managing herself, she's stewarding the space between you. And that space, whether you realize it or not, is the birthplace of trust. Now let's be honest, many men have lived the opposite. Maybe you've known the woman who thrives in tension, who escalates when you're down. The kind who thinks love is fire, always needing to be stoked, even if it burns you both. The kind who mistakes drama for passion. And maybe you loved her once. Maybe you still feel a pull to that chaos, because it's familiar. But the truth is, chaos disguised as love will cost you your center. And a man without his center is a man who forgets who he is. Real love doesn't take you further from yourself, it brings you home. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But here's what the Stoics knew, too. Sometimes, the right woman can become an extension of that retreat. Not because she fixes you, not because she completes you, but because she doesn't compete with your silence. She honors it. Let me tell you about Ethan. Ethan was a strong man, a thinker, stoic by nature. He'd been through war, both literal and emotional, and built a life from ashes. He met Anna during a time when his soul had started to feel brittle. She was different from the start. Not flashy, not demanding, but deeply present. When he was quiet, she didn't poke. When he was anxious, she didn't panic. She simply asked, "Want tea or space?" And in that moment, Ethan knew. It wasn't just kindness. It was alignment. She wasn't reacting to his behavior. She was respecting his rhythm. This is what a woman who loves you does. She learns your emotional blueprint, not to manipulate it, but to honor it. She doesn't seek control. She seeks understanding. She's not quick to take offense, because she doesn't need to defend herself from you. You're not the enemy, and so she doesn't become one. Her ego doesn't lead the relationship. Her peace does, and peace is powerful. Because here's the thing most men don't realize. A woman who values peace doesn't mean she's weak. It means she's strong enough not to be seduced by temporary power plays. She doesn't need to win an argument. She wants to protect the connection. That doesn't mean she'll always agree with you. It means that even in disagreement, she won't weaponize emotion to wound. You don't have to tiptoe. You don't have to perform. You get to be raw, imperfect, human. And over time, that calm, it doesn't just comfort you. It challenges you. It calls you to be more centered. It reminds you of the man you said you wanted to be. The man who thinks before he speaks, who breathes before he reacts, who leads not with force, but with presence. She becomes your compass, not because you depend on her, but because in her calm, you remember your own. Seneca once said, "A great mind becomes a great fortune." And the same is true of great love. It's not loud, but it's life-changing. So if you're with a woman who can sit with your silence without shrinking, if she can hear your frustration and not mirror it back in rage, if she sees your fear and doesn't flee, but holds the space for your strength to return, don't overlook that. That's not normal. That's rare. And rare things should never be taken for granted. This is the kind of woman who has done her inner work. She doesn't need you to make her feel whole. But in choosing you, she's choosing to protect what you're building, not with noise, but with quiet care. So when the storms come, and they always do, watch how she moves. Does she match your storm, or does she anchor you beneath it? Does she pour gasoline, or does she lower the flame? That answer will tell you everything. Because in the end, the kind of woman who prioritizes your peace over her ego isn't just loving you. She's loving you well. And in this loud, chaotic, often shallow world, that kind of love is not just comforting. It's sacred. Number 2, she reveals her vulnerability, not just her body. Not all intimacy is visible. Not all undressing involves skin. There is a kind of love that does not begin with a touch. It begins with a confession, a story long buried, a scar no one else was allowed to see, a quiet admission of fear, of failure, of the moments when she wasn't strong or poised or perfect. And when a woman opens that part of herself to you, it is not seduction. It is sacred trust. See, the world rewards women for showing their beauty, their bodies, their charm, but rarely does it teach them the strength in emotional nakedness. To be seen not as desirable, but as human. To say not "look at me," but "will you stay now that you've seen?" And that, my friend, is what separates performance from partnership. A woman can sleep beside you every night and never let you into her soul. She can flirt, play, engage in every surface-level form of closeness, and still be 1,000 miles away. But when she starts revealing her doubts, her childhood bruises, the secret hopes she was once ashamed of, that's not just connection. That's reverence. It means she sees you not as entertainment, but as emotional safety. The Stoics taught that real courage is not loud. It's the quiet act of facing the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. And when a woman lets you into that space, she is saying, "I trust your presence more than I fear your judgment." Seneca once wrote, "No one can wear a mask for long." So when a woman removes hers, not out of exhaustion, but because your presence makes it unnecessary, that's devotion. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya was, to everyone who knew her, unshakable, composed, the one with answers. But when she met Daniel, something changed. Not instantly, not dramatically, but slowly, she began to bring her real self to the table. The woman who sometimes couldn't sleep. The woman who still blamed herself for her parents' divorce at 12. The woman who, despite all her strength, still wrestled with the fear of not being enough. One night, she sat beside him, and through a trembling voice she said, "I don't know how to let people see me when I'm not in control. But with you, I want to try." That's not seduction. That's sanctuary. Too many men misread emotional vulnerability. They confuse it with neediness. But a woman doesn't cry in front of you because she's weak. She cries because she's brave enough to stop performing strength. And when she chooses to trust you with her softness, it is not a moment to fix her. It is a moment to receive her. You don't need to have the right words. You don't need to save her story. You just need to hold it like something sacred, because it is. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And in that same spirit, when she gives you her stories, especially the painful ones, what she's offering is not drama. It's data. It's a roadmap to the parts of her she's never let anyone guide her through. If she tells you her dreams, don't laugh. If she tells you her fears, don't flinch. If she tells you how she's been broken, don't make her regret it. Because that moment, that single conversation, could be the difference between love that deepens and love that disappears. And here's the paradox. When a woman shows you her inner world, she's not becoming smaller, she's becoming larger. You begin to see the fullness of her humanity, not just the curated highlight reel. And in doing so, you gain something that no level of physical closeness can give you: emotional intimacy. It's rare, and it's real, because the truth is, any woman can kiss you when she's bored. But only a woman who loves you will show you where she hurts and trust you not to run. So if you're with someone who begins to show you the stories behind her silence, the pain behind her patterns, the innocence behind her armor, don't look away. That is not a weakness leaking out. It is a deeper love breaking through. And your role is not to rescue her. Your role is to be a man who doesn't flinch when the mask drops. To be the kind of partner who listens not to respond, but to understand. To hold space, not with obligation, but with reverence. Because when she reveals her vulnerability and you meet it with presence, not panic, that's where real intimacy begins. Not the kind that fades when the fire cools, but the kind that glows in the quiet, that steadies in the struggle, that strengthens both of you, not with fantasy, but with truth. And that, in the Stoic world, is love worth building. Number 3, she defends you when you're not around. The world is full of people who say the right things when you're in the room. They laugh at your jokes. They nod at your dreams. They call you my love in every caption. But when your back is turned, when the room grows quiet and you're not there to hear it, what do they say then? That's where real loyalty lives. Not in public praise, but in private protection. See, the truest kind of love isn't measured by how someone acts in your presence. It's measured by what they guard in your absence. And if a woman defends your name when you're not around, if she shields your dignity when others try to chip away at it, that's not a gesture. That's a vow. In today's culture, we often celebrate boldness, big declarations, viral affection, love on loudspeaker. But as Epictetus once warned, it is not what you say that defines you, but what you do. And sometimes, what you do when no one is watching says more about your love than 1,000 romantic words. This kind of woman doesn't need applause for her integrity. She doesn't whisper correction to your face and sell your flaws for social currency behind your back. No, she protects what you're building, even when no one's watching. Take my friend Theo, for example. He was in a new relationship, and he'd just started a business, a passion project he'd poured years into. Naturally, there were skeptics, friends, even family. The usual whispers: it's risky. He should stick to something stable. It'll probably fail. He didn't know they were saying these things. But his girlfriend, Eliza, did. And instead of nodding along, instead of staying silent to preserve the comfort of the moment, she pushed back. He may not have it all figured out yet, she said once. But I've never seen someone so committed to growth. I believe in him. And you should too. She didn't tell him right away. She didn't need credit. But when he found out, it hit him deeper than any kiss ever had. Because words said behind your back carry more weight than those whispered in your ear. This is what Stoic love looks like. It's not performative. It's principled. Marcus Aurelius taught, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The same is true of love. If your partner's thoughts about you in private are laced with admiration and defense, even when you're not there to receive it, that energy seeps into the relationship. It strengthens it. It guards it. And you can feel the difference. There's a quiet safety in being with someone who speaks highly of you when there's no benefit in doing so. It's not flattery. It's respect. And respect is the soil where real love grows. This woman doesn't entertain gossip about you. She doesn't joke at your expense to seem relatable. She doesn't stay silent while others mock your ambition, downplay your values, or question your worth. She stands up, not to dominate, but to dignify. Because what you build together is not just about moments of closeness. It's about shared honor. And when she shields that honor in your absence, it means she sees this not as her love life, but as your shared legacy. That's rare. Most people think loyalty is about what you don't do. I don't cheat. I don't lie. But true loyalty is also about what you actively do, how you protect, how you uphold, how you reinforce. It's about whether your partner sees your name as sacred, even when you're not in the room to defend it yourself. Because the truth is, someone who will speak against you in private has already begun to emotionally exit the bond. But someone who protects you when it's inconvenient? That's not a partner. That's an ally. And in this life, especially as a man walking a path of purpose, you don't need perfection in love. You need partnership. You need someone who won't just stand beside you in the spotlight, but who will guard the gates of your name when no one is watching. So, ask yourself gently, does she defend me? When her friends scoff at my ambition, does she counter them or stay quiet? When her family doubts my pace, does she speak from understanding or distance? When the world grows loud with opinions, does she filter them or let them shape her? Because a woman who defends you in silence is loving you with courage. And courage, especially in private, is one of the rarest expressions of love there is. Number 4. She grows in your presence instead of competing. The most dangerous woman is not the one who attacks you openly. It's the one who secretly resents your rising. She claps for you in public, but inside, she keeps score. Every win you achieve feels, to her, like a quiet subtraction from her own worth. And without saying a word, she begins to pull back, not her love, perhaps, but her light. Because in her mind, there's not enough room for both of you to shine. But the woman who truly loves you, the one anchored in her own becoming, never competes. She grows beside you, not in your shadow, not ahead or behind, beside you, with you, for both of you. And this, my friend, is one of the rarest forms of love, the kind where one person's evolution does not threaten the others, it inspires it. See, many men have learned to play small in love, to tone down their ambition so she doesn't feel left behind, to dim their discipline so she doesn't feel exposed, to shrink their spirit so she doesn't mistake their growth for distance. But in Stoic terms, that's not love. That's emotional self-abandonment. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And when you walk that path, when you begin to rise in discipline, in purpose, in presence, the right woman doesn't pull you down. She asks, "Can I come with you?" This kind of woman doesn't see your growth as a threat. She sees it as a shared opportunity. When you start waking up early, she adjusts her rhythm. When you seek wisdom, she starts reading too. When you sit in silence, she joins, not to fill the space, but to understand it. It's not mimicry. It's momentum. Let me tell you about Drew and Sophia. Drew had always been driven, stoic in practice, measured in speech. He started journaling, reading Epictetus, and focusing on his fitness, not to impress anyone, but to refine himself. At first, Sophia watched with curiosity. Then, she began asking questions. Then, she started journaling too, not to copy him, but because his hunger for self-mastery sparked something in her own soul. Soon, they weren't just dating, they were evolving. Together, holding each other accountable not with criticism, but with quiet consistency. No envy, no scorekeeping, no hidden resentment. Just two souls growing under the same light. This is the mark of emotional maturity, the ability to love someone's rise without questioning your own worth. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." And when you love someone deeply, that quote should apply to your partner most of all. A true partner is not someone who distracts you from yourself. They are someone who reminds you of who you said you wanted to become. And if you're lucky, if you're wise, you'll choose a woman whose self-worth is so rooted in her own journey, she doesn't need to stand taller than you to feel tall. She celebrates your wins, not because they flatter her, but because she knows your success doesn't steal from her plate. It expands the table for both of you. And here's the paradox, her growth makes her more magnetic. Because a woman who is becoming, who is curious, who is always learning and evolving is endlessly compelling. You don't outgrow her. You grow with her. But when a woman fears your growth, what she's really telling you is, "I haven't yet found peace with my own potential." And that's not evil. It's human. But it's also dangerous, because over time, resentment hardens. And once love becomes a competition, someone has to lose. And it's often both of you. So how do you know if she's the growing kind? Watch her energy when you share your next goal. See if her eyes light up with encouragement or glaze over with insecurity. Listen to her tone when you're disciplined. Does she admire your strength or mock it? Pay attention when you fail. Does she offer compassion, or does she seem quietly relieved? Because love that only celebrates your weakness will always sabotage your strength. But love that grows when you grow, that's a foundation. That's alignment. That's rare. So if you find her, hold space for her growth too. Ask her about her goals. Create a life where her curiosity can breathe. Celebrate her breakthroughs, even if they have nothing to do with you. Because just as your growth deserves respect, so does hers. And when both people in a relationship are focused on becoming their highest selves, something sacred begins to take root. It's no longer a romance of convenience. It's a covenant of character, a space where both of you can rise without ever needing to shrink. Number 5. She respects your solitude without taking it personally. There's a moment in every relationship when one person turns inward. They don't withdraw out of anger or hide because of secrets. They simply go quiet, not out of distance, but from depth. It could be for an hour, a day, maybe longer, not to punish, but to process. And this is where most relationships begin to fray, not because something is broken, but because the silence is misread. But the woman who truly loves you, who understands you, not only respects your solitude, she protects it. Because she knows a man doesn't always speak to be heard. Sometimes he falls silent to hear himself again. In a world that demands constant updates, where attention is currency and connection is mistaken for constant contact, this kind of woman is a rarity. She doesn't send a storm of question marks to your phone. She doesn't flood you with, "Is everything okay?" texts that are really coded fears of abandonment. She breathes. She trusts. She waits, not out of disinterest, but out of wisdom. She knows your stillness isn't a threat. It's a return. Epictetus taught, no great thing is created suddenly. And that includes clarity. That includes healing. That includes you. There are men who crumble under the weight of performance, the pressure to always be available, always entertaining, always explaining. But the stoic man, the grounded man, knows that solitude is not absence. It's alchemy. It's where thought settles, purpose recalibrates, and peace quietly gathers itself again. And if the woman in your life doesn't understand that, if she misreads your need for stillness as emotional retreat, as rejection, as disinterest, then what she's really asking isn't, "Are you okay?" She's asking, "Do I still have control?" But the woman who loves from wholeness doesn't try to control your quiet. She honors it. She doesn't need to fill your silence with her noise. She lets you be, because she knows that a man who is given space to return to himself always returns better. Not colder, clearer. Let me tell you about Amir. He was going through the hardest season of his life. His father was dying, his business was bleeding, and the weight of being strong for everyone else was finally catching up with him. His partner, Layla, noticed his shift. He was quieter, less expressive, no more long conversations at night. But instead of pulling at him, instead of making it about her, she said one thing that stayed with him for years. "Take what you need. I'm here when you're ready. I won't crowd the quiet." And that one line? That was love in its highest form. Because in that moment, she wasn't just offering space. She was offering trust. Trust in his process. Trust in their connection. Trust that love doesn't dissolve in silence, it deepens in it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And when a man is in solitude, his thoughts return to who and what nourishes him. If a woman is secure enough to let him sit with those thoughts without interruption, she becomes part of that sacred place, not a distraction from it. But here's what makes it beautiful. This woman doesn't disappear during your solitude. She remains present without pressing, available without hovering. She sends no guilt. She creates no tension. She simply stands at the doorway of your silence, waiting with calm eyes and a steady heart. Because she understands that solitude is not distance. It's depth. And when you emerge, when your thoughts are clearer, your breath steadier, you'll remember the one who didn't try to fill the quiet, but who held it with you. Because love, at its highest level, doesn't fear pauses. It breathes with them. In a world full of people trying to constantly prove their relevance, the woman who doesn't need to interrupt your silence becomes unforgettable. Not because she shouted, but because she didn't. She trusted the bond enough to let it breathe. So ask yourself, does she allow you room to return to yourself? When you go inward, does she chase or does she wait? When your thoughts grow heavy, does she add to the noise or make room for the stillness? Because the woman who truly loves you won't ask you to choose between her and your own peace. She'll hold the space until both can exist in harmony. And that kind of presence? That's not just love. That's wisdom. Number 6, she brings you closer to virtue, not just pleasure. She doesn't flatter your ego. She sharpens your edge. Not with criticism, not with pressure, but with presence, a presence so grounded, so attuned to your higher self, that even when you're tempted to fold, to indulge, to fall back into comfort, she reminds you of the man you once told her you wanted to become. That's not control. That's character calling you forward. Most relationships today are built on pleasure. The rush, the romance, the dopamine-laced early days of attraction. But pleasure, as the Stoics knew, is fleeting. It's a firework, brief, beautiful, and gone. Virtue, though? Virtue is the fire that doesn't burn out. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is content with himself, but not so much that he does not need a friend." A woman rooted in your becoming is that friend, that mirror, that flame. She loves your joy, but she's not addicted to it. She respects your need for rest, but she won't let you rot there. She can be soft, but never spineless, because her love is anchored not in pleasing you, but in pushing you, not for her benefit, but for your growth. Let me tell you about Malik and Noor. Malik was an artist, wild, talented, but often undisciplined. He thrived on bursts of inspiration, then sank into long stretches of avoidance. Excuses. Escapes. Noor loved him, but not the kind of love that enabled his drift. When he missed deadlines, she didn't coddle. When he numbed out with distraction, she didn't join. Instead, she looked him in the eye and asked, "Is this who you are, or just who you've gotten used to being?" She didn't raise her voice. She raised the standard. And Malik, he rose. Not because she pushed, but because she believed. Because her love didn't stroke his comfort, it stirred his courage. This is what most people misunderstand about Stoic love. It's not detached. It's directed. It doesn't seek to feel good all the time. It seeks to become good all the time. And the woman who helps you become, who sees your laziness and calls you back to discipline, who sees your doubt and reminds you of your dignity, that woman is not just loving your presence. She is serving your purpose. In a society that often reduces love to chemistry, attraction, shared aesthetics, this kind of woman rises above it all. She doesn't seduce your lower impulses. She awakens your higher instincts. She's not impressed by potential. She's moved by discipline, by progress, by consistency, and she holds herself to the same. Because for her, love is not a game to be won. It's a garden to be grown. And if you start to slack, to settle, to sabotage what you're building, she won't applaud it just to keep the peace. She'll challenge you, not because she wants to be right, but because she sees who you could be. And loving you deeply means not letting that version of you die quietly. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time. Be what nature intended." A woman who brings you closer to virtue holds you accountable to that. She'll call you out when you gossip. She'll remind you when you speak from ego instead of essence. She'll raise an eyebrow, not in anger, but in expectation, when you begin to drift from your mission. And if you're wise, you won't resist it. You'll rise to it. Because a man becomes dangerous not when he is entertained, but when he is aligned, focused, forged, and a love that nurtures that kind of alignment is priceless. Yes, pleasure has its place. So does passion, but they are not the foundation. They are the firewood, not the hearthstone. The hearthstone is virtue, character, purpose, presence, and a woman who brings you closer to that. She's not just your partner. She's your mirror, your reminder, your quiet reason to keep becoming who you said you wanted to be, especially on the days when you'd rather run from it. So if she ever looks at you and says, "You're better than that," don't be offended. Be grateful, because that's not critique. That's commitment. And that kind of love, the kind that calls you up, not just cuddles you down, that's the kind you build a legacy with. Not every woman who says she loves you knows how to love you, but the ones who do, they won't just tell you, they'll show you, quietly, intentionally, not with grand declarations, but with actions that echo long after the moment has passed. She'll protect your peace when her ego wants to react. She'll reveal her soul, not just her skin. She'll speak of you with honor when you're nowhere near. She'll rise beside you, not in your shadow nor ahead of you. She'll respect your silence, not as a threat, but as sacred space. And above all, she'll bring you closer to virtue, to who you're meant to be, not just what feels good in the moment. These aren't just signs of affection. They are spiritual alignments, indicators that the love between you isn't rooted in need, performance, or fear, but in something deeper, in something stoic. Because as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, a soul that is in harmony with itself is more precious than any possession. The woman who loves you in these 6 ways is not trying to possess you. She's honoring your soul, walking beside it, holding space for it to evolve, on its terms, not hers. And if you've known a love like that, you know it doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't try to impress. It simply stays, steady, soulful, rare. But here's the question worth asking yourself, quietly, as this video ends. Have you allowed room in your life for this kind of love? Have you become the kind of man who can recognize it, who can hold it, who can rise in the presence of it? Because to receive this kind of woman is not just a matter of luck, it's a matter of readiness. She doesn't want perfection, but she does require presence. Integrity, a man who values growth more than ego, who meets peace with peace, and who recognizes a sacred thing when he sees it. So if this touched something in you, if it reminded you of someone you're with, or someone you're still waiting for, share this video with your heart open. Reflect. Let it breathe in your quiet time. And if this message gave you something, peace, clarity, courage, then consider joining this journey. Subscribe to Stoic now. Like this video if it felt true to you. And leave a comment below, not for the algorithm, but to share your truth, your story, your experience with this kind of love, or the longing for it. Because every time you reflect aloud, you make it easier for another man to recognize what love really is. And that's how we rise. Together. Until next time, stay steady, stay strong, and never forget, real love doesn't shake your core, it brings you home to it.